Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Vishal Jain, and today we're going to talk about product metrics, specifically for AI products. Let's go through this. Welcome to this webinar. I am a product manager at Amazon. I have more than 18 years of professional work experience. I've been at Amazon for more than 8.5 of 9 years, and I've shipped various products, including Gen AI, retail, e-commerce, and other products. I have in my career worked in different industries, including tech, retail, consumer product groups, supply chain, etc. And I'm excited to bring this topic to you today. It's something that's close to my heart. It's something that's very relevant in today's atmosphere. Most of product managers, and if you are your product is even a little bit technical, you are dealing with AI applications and AI features is everywhere and everyone's using it. And I'm hopeful that the content I bring to you today, you'll be able to not only be useful for your work, be able to actually apply it in the things that you're building. So what are we going to talk about today? So like everyone's building AI features, but how do you measure if they're actually working? I've seen there's a lot of focus on the AI models, their accuracy, and how good the model is. And what's that doing is that takes away from the focus of the whole product. And so while everyone is focused on the model, I think the product manager's job is to look at the end-to-end picture. The model is just one input to the whole product. And so, don't get me wrong, the accuracy is important, but it's not everything. That's what I want to. If there's one thing you take back today, I think that's what you should take back. That as a product manager, you need to look at things end to end, and you need to think about how you measure success end to end. And so, what we'll cover today is one is this accuracy trap. Um, why you should just not focus on the accuracy and look at the whole product. I will share a 4-pillar framework that I use. You don't have to use the same thing, but if you can apply similar concepts within your thinking as well, then I think that would be helpful. The whole idea of this 4-pillar framework is to guide you into measuring things that cover the end to end. The third is one of the most important things is the feedback loop. So you build products, but if you don't build a feedback loop, your product can fail very fast, and you won't even know. So building a feedback loop, I'll then wrap up what we've learned, and then hopefully you will find this helpful. Okay, I think everyone might have heard this line before, which is I've definitely heard it, in the past. Our model accuracy is great. Let's ship it. And the engineers are happy. The tech specs satisfied. They've done everything that we asked them to do. But one thing that people don't notice is, are customers really using it? Are they really liking it? Is it generating business outcomes? Is it actually driving revenue? Do customers trust our product? Are they coming back? And so the accuracy is necessary, like I said before, but it's not sufficient. It's just one input to the whole product. And usually, as you'll see, as I say, it'll come more in the deck is, a customer trust is a UX metric, and you can only gain it with different things that you do within your product, and not just the model. And so there are 3 gaps that accuracy doesn't cover. One is the lab is not the same as the real world. So any inputs, any assumptions that you've used to create your model is not going to be the same when real customers start using it. It's going to be unpredictable. The second is that, a correct model is an accurate model is not the same as a trusted model. So it could give the right things based on what you inputted, but it's not necessary that the customers will trust it. And so we'll go a little bit into that as well. And then the last thing is the model metrics are not the same as business outcomes. So your model could be great, could be working great, but is it actually generating business outcomes? Maybe, maybe not. You have to measure that to know if it's doing that or not. And so the four pillars that I talk about are here. One is model quality, and so how good your product is. The second is user engagement. So are users actually engaging with the model that you've built? Third is the business impact. And so if the users are engaging, then is it generating business impact? And lastly is operational reliability. And that has everything to do with making sure, you know, you have the right latency built into the system, folks are using it the right way, etc. We'll go a little bit deeper into that as well. So I personally think these four things cover the end-to-end. And so it could give you a way to measure your products. Let's go into the first one, model quality. So is your model actually doing the right thing? And so you can think about four different types of metrics that can go in here. And so one is task accuracy. And so this is measured specifically against your use case. There is a lot of push today to, figure out what is the benchmark, and there's not really the right benchmark, and one product is not the same as the other. And I always try to push people into saying, don't go chasing benchmarks. Identify what's your use case and measure against that use case. The second is hallucination rate. This is very, very common, occurs a lot with AI models, is how often your model confidently produces something that is wrong. And something you should track very frequently. Depending on what your model use case is, you might want to do it weekly, you might even want to do it daily. And a small rise, and the reason I say is because it could be a big warning sign, is because it's all about the trust. And when you start losing customer trust, you start losing hold on your product. The third is model drift, very similar to hallucination rate, but these AI models, they don't break overnight, but they may drift. They may start giving outputs that are away from what the ideal output should be, and it can take some time to identify that. And so you have to measure the delta over time. So you can develop alerts within your system, similar to hallucination rate, but these are kind of things that you should measure. And third is edge case coverage. So I've, in my experience, found this very, very helpful. Is as we tend to concentrate a lot on the most common use cases, because that's where the most important customers are. That's where we get the most revenue. But the edge cases a lot of times are also very important. Like I say here, the weird 5% of queries that the customer asks, they often drive 40% of the complaints. And so and what I've also found is within those complaints is where I found some of the most important inputs to improve my models and my product. And so that's a little bit about model quality. Let's move to the next one, which is user engagement. Within the user engagement, what you're trying to do is try to assess, are customers actually using the product that we've built? And so one important metric here is around output edit rate. So whatever output your AI model gave, are customers, editing that a lot? You want to know that, because um, you know low edits would mean high trust, and high trust means the customers are going to come back even more, and they're going to trust your model even more. Second is retry rate. And so that how many times the customer reran the same query. That means they were not happy with what they saw before. The third is explicit feedback. No, this is something you can collect using surveys or thumbs up, thumbs down within your product itself. That's the best signal you can get in terms of how customers are feeling, how customers are actually feeling, what their sentiments are about their product. Um, the participation in something like this could be low, but it's signal that you should not ignore. The last one here is session depth. So how long the customer stayed within your product and used it, which is also called multi-turn engagement. These are some of the important things you should measure for user engagement. Let's move to the next topic, which is business impact. Everyone's favorite. Everyone's asking for the business impact. And so the first, I think, here is the revenue lift via A/B testing. And why I insist on A/B testing is because that allows you the ability to measure the impact of your feature versus something else. And so you could launch a feature and that could generate, more, let's say, revenue for your product. But did it really happen because of your revenue, or was there a marketing campaign, or was there something else going on in the background? Always, 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 if I can, and if there is opportunity, A/B test your specific feature to know exactly the impact of that feature. And then the next is feature adoption rate. It's the obvious one. How many users used your feature in the last days? Third one, also, I think is very, very important, is you could generate the most revenue and the adoption rate could be huge. But if it's too costly, it's of no use. So cost per inference is very important with AI models. And then brand sentiments. So with edge cases, like I talked about before, but like other escalations, if your model spitting out stuff that's not appropriate, how many tickets are you getting on that? Um, is something you should track as well. The last one is operational reliability. And so this one is no surprise to everyone, but the first one, let's talk about the first one, which is latency. So we want our product to be um, not slow, uh, is a way I like to say it. With AI models, I think customers have generated this, um, what do you call, um, customers are okay if it takes 30 seconds or 1 minute for an AI to respond. They're happy with that as long as the output is good. But what we don't want is to take 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You just don't want it to be too slow. And with latency, I always prefer that you should not measure P50. You should always measure P99 because the users experience the worst 1%, right? Um, and so that's what sets your SLA. Next is the availability, very, very important. So you should track your uptime. And if there are timeouts, rate limits, because of how much inference was used by a customer, always, always important to track that. And the inference cost, we covered that before as well, but how is your inference cost trending? Could be as an important uh, operational metric. Fallback rate, this is um, if your product was not in existence, what is the path user are taking, traditional path. So depending on your AI product, there could be no fallback, like there's no other path in the past, or if there is, then it's a super important metric to measure to know, after you launched your product and after a customer has used your product, are they still falling back to the original way of doing things? Next is guardrail hits. So that's sudden spikes that's impacting your model. Should never ignore this. And then version regression. So these are all standard, I think, operational metrics. Everyone, if you're a product manager working on AI products, you should be familiar with. But for completeness, I wanted to make sure that I talk about these two and not just the other ones, to make sure everyone gets the complete picture of what should be measured with the AI models. The next thing I think is important is the feedback loop, right? And so your product should get smarter every time someone uses it. And so that can only happen if you know when someone used the product, what was the output of it? Did they like it? Did they not like it? Was it accurate? Etc. And so first, it's very standard feedback loop process. Once you deploy the feature, instrument your metrics, super important to instrument them, super important to then analyze them. And then when you know the areas where you need to improve, you go ahead and improve them. And then you repeat the cycle. It could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be different for different features, it could be different for different metrics. But the feedback loop is a very, very important step that you should always keep within your product. And then the other thing I like to kind of talk about is the explicit and the implicit signals. And to me, both are important, but it's important also to understand the difference between them. So, like the explicit signals are signals that are clear direction. The user has told you this is working for me or this is not working for me. And the implicit signals are where user has not given you a direct feedback, but their behavior tells you that user likes it or not. And so some examples of explicit metric are, direct feedback through surveys, which is thumbs up or thumbs down, star ratings, customers editing their output, customers flagging and reporting a problem, giving open text feedback. The problem with explicit feedback is that only a few customers do it. So you're only going to get a small percentage of your actual users who give you the explicit feedback. But it's great and it's super important because you got direct signal from the customer of how they're liking it. And then there's the implicit feedback where customers through their behavior tell you how they're feeling about the product. And so immediately rerunning the query, like why did they do that? Then the time to act on the output. Are they copying and pasting the stuff that the model output to them? And the back navigation after result and the downstream conversion rate, if it applies to your product, etc. You get the signal for every user. And so you can aggregate the output from this and get implicit signals. And then you can combine the explicit and the implicit and see if together they're making sense as well. But if you've instrumented your metrics end to end and you're getting the explicit and implicit signals and you've developed the feedback loop, you have created a working proper metrics system for your AI model and your product that cannot fail. It will not, even though when you first launch it and the users are not liking it, you will have the exact signals you need to make the right improvements to the feedback loop to keep improving it. And then these are just my honest takeaways from the products that I have built uh, in my career. One thing to keep in mind is that user behavior changes before the dashboards do. Um, and so customers will tell you with their behavior what how are they feeling, and then sometimes the dashboards and what you see in the metrics can take time to catch up. That's a super important one. The other is outputs that feel wrong don't get used even if they're correct. And so what I mean by that is, like AI features, they get unused because the tone is robotic or the format that came out was awkward. So customers are not going to use that. And so even though you feel that, the output was correct, but there was something wrong within the output, and that's why customers are not using it. You should figure out how it is. So it's not only the correctness, like how are customers trusting the output that you're giving or not. And lastly is that, a lot of times, because your total use case is going to be your average use case, that's where you start doing the design. And I always push my engineering team is to design for the peak. A lot of times, if you don't do that, your products fail as soon as the peak hits. And the peak is where is the core of your business, and that's the use case you should optimize for. Okay. Now, here's some, just from my perspective, some common traps to avoid. One, grading your own homework. So evaluating your product based on how you think it's performing. It's super important to get real customer feedback. So you can, instead of trying to assess yourself and feeling good about something that you've built, real production traffic, and that data is super important. Second is tracking a lot of metrics. I put the number 47 here, but what I really mean is pick 3 to 5, maybe 10 metrics and measure that, and um, look at that consistently. You don't need to look at 47 different metrics. You need to choose your few that you're going to track every single week. The third trap is that silence means it's working. So if you're not getting feedback from the customers, treat that as a signal that something's wrong. That doesn't mean that everything is good. And then you should dig deeper to figure out what's going on. Next is, we'll instrument it later. Never do that. Never launch a product without having the right instrumentation for your metrics. You will never know how customers are using your product, slow, fast, how things are going, and you'll never be able to improve upon it. And lastly is that the AI team owns AI metrics. They don't. They just own the model. So you as a product manager has the responsibility of owning the product and owning the metrics around that product. Okay. If you were to take 3 things away from today, I'd like you to go away with these 3 things. One, accuracy is good. It gets you to the starting line, but you're not gonna win the race with it. And so with with the good model, you need the customer trust, and the customer trust to drive the business outcome, and that's how you win. The second is measure all 4 pillars. You don't have to use the framework I gave, but what I'm trying to show with this framework is try to not have a blind spot, right? And so try to measure end to end, from model quality to user engagement to business outcome and to operational metrics, measure everything. And lastly, the most important thing is having the feedback loop. And so learning from the metrics that been given to you and then implementing the feedback loop within the system so you can keep making improvements. And so that's it for today. I hope, really hope this was helpful for each and every one of you. I hope this gives you a direction into the AI products that you're building. I also hope that I come again with more topics. All depend on the feedback I get from this webinar. And if I feel encouraged to do more, I will. If you need to reach me, I have my email on the slide. You can also reach me via LinkedIn. I'm happy to talk to you. If you have questions, please send it over and I'll be happy to answer them. Again, Vishal Jain here. It was a pleasure talking with you guys, and I hope you find this webinar helpful. Thank you and bye-bye.